Whatever service you're offering, you obviously need to get paid.
So, you got my money?
But pricing services is often more complicated than pricing products. And I totally get it, because I've run a service business in a really competitive market for over a decade. And I've had to keep our pricing constantly under review just to make sure that we can continue to compete and thrive in our market. So in this video, I'll share some advice that I think is helpful when you're pricing your services so that your customers can get value and you can make money. So stay tuned. Hey, this is Matt and welcome back to the channel. The good news is that when you're pricing your services, businesses have a lot of flexibility. But of course, the bad news is, because of that flexibility, there's no one-size-fits-all way to do it. Your overall price will depend heavily on three factors. The first is the costs associated with delivering the service. Essentially, this is where you total up all the fixed, direct and indirect costs associated with delivering your service. So things like people, rent, software, computers, heating, insurance, tea, coffee, the whole 9 yards, and then you can work out what sort of profit margin you'd ideally like on top of that. The next consideration, and something you need to watch constantly, is your competitors' pricing. Like it or not, pricing is going to be a key factor in whether people choose to work with you or your competitors, so you at least need to know what they're charging, as this is likely to be a topic that comes up in sales conversations. Then you need to decide how your pricing stacks up against your competitors, so do you want to be a lower price, same price, or a higher price? And now for the part that makes pricing so subjective, and that's what's your service actually worth to your customer? What can it help them achieve? How does it improve their lives? How much time or hard work does it save them? And think about these things particularly compared to other options in your industry. For instance, your service might not cost much to deliver, but it might be extremely valuable to your customer, in which case you can charge a premium for it. Another factor to consider is supply and demand. Supply is determined by the number of competitors you have in the market and their capacity to deliver comparable services. And then demand is the number of customers who are buyers for this type of service. When supply is high and demand's low, prices will typically fall as companies fight for a smaller pool of business. Whereas when demand's high and supply is low, then prices will rise as buyers fight to get their projects worked on. So consider where your industry falls on the supply and demand scale. For my business, in the video marketing industry, we've been on the high demand, medium supply area for many years, but we've now started to see much more supply as more competitors have been entering the market. Another thing to think about is that price isn't just about deciding on a single number. You have to decide what's the right pricing structure for you and your customers. The most popular options for agencies are hourly rates, flat fees, and variable pricing, but there are plenty of other hybrid options out there. Obviously, these all have their own strengths and weaknesses, but perhaps my own story might illustrate how much of an impact this decision can make. When I first started WiseOwl, most other companies that created explainer videos did it based on an hourly rate. So buying from these companies was a bit of an unknown because the amount of time it takes to create an explainer video can vary massively. And this meant it was really hard to understand how much it would cost and how long it would take to get a video made at the start of the process. So I decided that our pricing needs to be the opposite of this. Simple, straightforward, and easy to understand. That meant one fixed price with an all-inclusive service, including unlimited revisions and fixed turnaround times at each stage. This means customers know exactly what they're getting and for what price at the start of the process. Pricing in this way effectively productizes our service, so although it's a fully custom-made video, the pricing and deliverables are fixed so that everyone's clear from the start. First thing to say is that this massively helped me to sell our services, both back then and even now to this day. The other thing to say is that it was so effective that pretty much the whole industry followed suit, and within a few years, everyone was offering fixed pricing because the hourly rate model was just so difficult and risky for customers when they were given a choice. What this means commercially, of course, is that we do sometimes get outlier projects where we unfortunately spend so much time that we struggle to break even, or we even sometimes make a loss on the odd project. But this is rare, and we know that the large majority of our projects will be profitable. And importantly, we review our profit and loss on a granular basis so that we can adjust our pricing in future if we need to. So to wrap up, some closing thoughts. Monitor and keep monitoring the market. You need to understand what your competitors are charging and what they're offering. Then critically evaluate their quality of work to ensure that you're offering the very best value that you can. Know your place in the market. Don't build a brand around being the cheapest, because there's always someone who can come along and undercut you. But know your place. It's okay that you might be too cheap or too expensive for some customers. Don't worry about that, just make sure that you're right for your specific target audience. And play carefully with making changes, particularly rising prices, because there are times when it needs to be done, but price changes need to be done rarely, and when they do, gradually. If you enjoyed today's video, why not subscribe to the channel for more videos every week, and leave me a thumbs up to let me know you liked it. And let me know in the comments, what do you think are the key considerations it comes to when thinking about business pricing?